The first sign of the invasion was a faint streak of violet light slanting across the night sky. Most people on Earth didn't even notice it. A few amateur astronomers did, but they assumed it was just another meteor burning up in the atmosphere. Within 24 hours, however, more unsettling reports began trickling in from observatories worldwide. A near-Earth object had abruptly changed its trajectory. At first, data was inconclusive. It appeared the object was slowly decelerating, twisting into a lower orbit around the planet. 2 days later, the object came into view of high-resolution telescopes, revealing a shape that could not possibly be anything but artificial. Atmospheric sensors observed a complex interplay of electromagnetic fields emanating from the vessel. Scientists speculated that these emissions, carefully modulated and highly coherent, hinted at an advanced propulsion system. A week slipped by in breathless speculation. World governments scrambled satellites into position, desperate for more data. Astronomers and military experts alike gazed at the screen with mounting alarm. Once the object stabilized its orbit, it began streaming a cryptic signal, indecipherable yet repeated at exact intervals. Negotiations began before anyone even knew what the alien presence wanted. Scientists broadcast a variety of greetings, from simple greetings in multiple languages to mathematics-based attempts at communication. All went unanswered. As the tension deepened, Earth's powers braced for possibilities: invasion, peaceful contact, or something else entirely. Consensus was that humanity was dealing with something beyond terrestrial capabilities. Privatized corporations, in a moment of rare cooperation, offered data from their own deep space telescopes. That data confirmed almost everyone's worst fear. The vessel was enormous, well over 2 kilometers in diameter at its widest point. It bristled with what looked like arrays or possibly weapons. Whatever the real reason for its presence, it was equipped with terrifying potential. Soon enough, the so-called peaceful contact camp fell silent. Surveillance discovered an energy buildup around the alien craft. Its surface panels began to rotate, capturing solar energy, or possibly fueling something deeper and more destructive. Top scientists argued about what phenomenon might be taking place. If it was a weapon charging up, it could obliterate entire regions of Earth at the push of a button. Governments considered nuclear responses, but recognized that Earth's weapons would be laughably primitive against something that had traveled interstellar space. A single shot from that strange array in orbit might end civilization. It didn't take long for political pressures to escalate. Officials across the globe insisted militaries unify under a single command, some sort of planetary defense council. In a frantic rush, the United Nations Security Council hammered out an agreement with great powers and smaller nations. Tactical experts from all corners of Earth pooled knowledge. They formed a new command structure known colloquially as Guardian Prime, a streamlined leadership that would coordinate if the aliens turned hostile. But after weeks of reconnaissance, the entire planet was still guessing at the craft's purpose and the cryptic signals it transmitted. On a crypt morning in Geneva, the first sign of direct malice arrived. The orbiting craft unleashed a spherical wave, a brilliant purple light. The wave swept over the mid-latitudes of the planet. At first, people reported momentary blindness caused by the flash. Then, electronics worldwide faltered. The global technology grid suffered catastrophic failures. Satellites fell offline. Airline pilots lost communications. Modern cities were plunged into chaos. The electromagnetic wave had effectively crippled centuries of human technological progress in a matter of seconds. Fear turned to desperation as the basic foundations of modern life teetered. No official statement needed to be made. Earth was under attack. Despite the damage, some of the research enclaves and heavily protected labs managed to remain operational. Inside a bunker hidden under the Rocky Mountains, a team of scientists and military tacticians convened around a flickering holographic display. They had something of a last-ditch plan, a plan that under any normal circumstances would sound outrageous, but these were not normal circumstances. The plan required time. Time, however, was in short supply. The alien craft shifted position in orbit, reorienting a massive section that resembled a colossal spinal column. Large metal plates shifted, revealing a gaping maw, glowing with a deep orange luminescence. Scholars of ancient lore might have described it as the mouth of a dragon, but the experts saw it for what it was: an advanced energy weapon charging for a more directed, cataclysmic blast, a superweapon that could annihilate entire swaths of land in one strike. Guardian Prime's monitors showed that the next wave of assault could be unleashed at any moment. Refugees streamed into whatever hardened shelters remained. Nations scrambled to evacuate populations from known targets: major metropolises, industrial hubs, vital research facilities. But the next wave of alien aggression never came, as expected. Instead, small pods began detaching from the orbiting craft, plunging toward the planet's surface. Each carried a squad of tall, elegant figures clad in advanced, shimmering armor. These aliens spread out quietly, establishing forward operating bases in remote areas. Humanity waited anxiously, uncertain whether these pods were the prelude to full-on invasion or some other objective. Rumors began circulating that the landed aliens were searching for something on the surface, some key resource or artifact. Others suggested they were planting devices for global terraforming. In truth, few infiltration teams managed to glean anything. The aliens were adept at camouflage and swiftly disabled any local defense. Time was slipping away, and the battered remains of Earth's intelligence networks worked around the clock. The key to saving humanity wouldn't be found on a battlefield, but in the quiet revolution of an ingenious plan. Deep in that bunker beneath the Rockies, scientists had discovered an anomaly in the alien signals. They suspected the transmissions were powering or coordinating the superweapon in orbit. If one could exploit a vulnerability, perhaps the weapon could be turned against itself, or at least disarmed. Yet, there was another surprise. An older scientist named Mirabel Tran discovered that part of the alien transmission matched a resonance pattern found in Earth's own ionosphere. This indicated a synergy with the planet's natural electromagnetic fields. The aliens had, in effect, archived Earth's atmospheric signature to calibrate their weapon for maximum potency. Dr. Tran speculated that if these frequencies were manipulated, the weapon might misfire or even collapse under its own charge. On a normal day, repurposing Earth's entire ionosphere would be unthinkable. But these were desperate times. The bunker's scientists hammered out a method to hijack the aliens' frequency. The plan required launching a custom device, which they dubbed Project Harmonize, into the upper atmosphere. This device would need to broadcast specific electromagnetic pulses that mirrored and then disrupted the alien signal. Success hinged on precise synchronization. One miscalculation and the device might blow up or do nothing at all. But if it worked, the alien weapon could be sent into an uncontrollable feedback loop. Meanwhile, tension rose across the globe. The Guardian Prime leadership had to keep the maneuver secret from the aliens. If their plan was discovered prematurely, the invaders might accelerate their attack. Every day of respite was precious. The presence of the alien ground troops complicated matters. They had begun searching for hidden bases, possibly determined to stamp out any organized resistance. The underground bunkers might be discovered at any moment. The clock was ticking. Cut off from advanced electronics, humanity turned to older technologies that had not been disrupted or that could be more easily repaired. Vacuum tubes, analog systems, shortwave radios. Technical teams scavenged museums for relics of early space travel. They found archaic rocket parts, decades-old radio transmitters. Engineers repurposed these to get off a single rocket with the crucial payload. Old chemical propulsion was slow, inefficient, and outdated, but ironically less vulnerable to the aliens' electromagnetic onslaught. In a vast underground hangar outside Munich, tech teams assembled a jerry-rigged rocket from partial museum pieces and old lab prototypes. Mechanics rummaged through archaic tooling systems. No digital precision could be counted on, so everything from fuel valve calibration to guidance controls had to be completed manually. Meanwhile, the Guardian Prime Intelligence Corps discovered a general timeline of the next alien strike. The massive orbital structure began rotating again, possibly aligning a new shot. One more wave from that beast, and Earth would have little left. But the greatest fear was that the next shot would be more than a city killer. It might be the final blow to break the planet. Satellite images, those few that could be coaxed back to life, showed extensive reconfiguration of the massive array, energy building up. The Earth's population braced for an apocalypse unlike anything in human history. As the rocket carrying Project Harmonize neared completion, volunteers lined up to run final checks. Courageous men and women exposed themselves to high radiation, scorching heat, chemical fumes. They worked around the clock, ignoring exhaustion for a single hope: that they could save the world. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. The rocket's launch capacity was uncertain, and its reliability was, at best, questionable. Only a small crew was needed on board: 2 pilots, an engineer, and 1 specialist trained to activate and calibrate the harmonized payload. The day of launch arrived in a hush of tension. The makeshift rocket rested on an old launch pad, shielded by foliage and camouflage netting to avoid alien reconnaissance. Early dawn painted the sky in muted pink. Guardian Prime generals waited in the bunker, uncertain if the rocket would even lift off. Then the ignition sequence started. A thunderous roar filled the air, an anachronistic defiant cry against the unstoppable technology in orbit. The improvised systems held together barely. Against all odds, the rocket rose, powered by ancient chemical engines. Smoke billowed, trees swaying from the force. Onlookers erupted in cheers, tears, and desperate prayers. Once the rocket broke cloud cover, ground teams hopped onto shortwave transceivers for updates. Inside the cockpit, the pilots wrestled with vibrations and flickering dials. The entire craft rattled in a cacophony of metal stress. They relied heavily on analog instruments and manual calculations to keep them on trajectory. As the rocket gained altitude, no one could say for sure if the alien sensors would detect it. Perhaps they already had. Yet no beams of purple lightning came. No unstoppable missile soared to intercept. With the world's heart in its throat, humanity waited. Within minutes, the rocket reached a suborbital trajectory. The battered crew ejected the first stage and fired the second. In the small cargo bay behind them sat the custom device, Project Harmonize. Mirabelle Tran had joined the flight, volunteering as the mission specialist despite her advanced age. She alone had the intricate knowledge of the device's configurations. Her confidence that her design would work was unwavering, even if others' hopes faltered. She spent the entire ascent strapped into a seat that shuddered with every jolt, eyes fixed on the device's readouts. She was preparing the final sequence so that when it was deployed into the upper layers of the atmosphere, it could synchronize with the alien signals. Down on Earth, hours felt like days. Then, Guardian Prime's battered communication lines picked up a faint signal from the rocket. Success. The second stage had reached the threshold of Earth's atmosphere. It was time to expose the satellite-like payload. The rocket canopy parted, and Project Harmonize with its dish-like antenna extended outward. 2 bright panels unfurled in the fragile vacuum. The pilots carefully oriented the craft, preparing for the moment to release the payload. Mirabelle's hands hovered over levers and dials, reading the flickering needles on analog meters. In orbit, the alien superweapon must have sensed something. Systems on the colossal craft began adjusting. Its swirling panels emitted a new frequency pattern. Mirabelle recognized it immediately. They were targeting the rocket, or at least scanning it. She had seconds to complete the sequence. The moment came. She activated the final code, and the cargo bay doors released Project Harmonize. Freed into the silent emptiness, the device drifted, tethered by a minimal guidance system. Through the viewport, Mirabelle saw the alien craft, a monstrous silhouette against the twinkling stars. She felt a chill of awe and fear, but she held steady. After a few more breathless seconds, the signals on her console beeped in confirmation. Project Harmonize had engaged. Its dish glowed faintly with a swirling deep sapphire hue. Within the device, the broadcast began, matching the alien frequency with microscopic precision. For an agonizing moment, nothing happened. Then, a jagged vibration rippled across the rocket's hull, as if the air itself had turned to static. Mirabelle watched the alien craft's silhouette flicker. Its luminous arrays sputtered. Guardian Prime's scattered sensors, still half-functioning, indicated a surge of interference in the alien's transmissions. The lines of data spiked, soared, then began to crackle with instability. Inside the alien craft, presumably, chaos must have erupted. Something unstoppable was happening. The superweapon's core, designed to channel unimaginable energies, was now bombarded by an inverted signal. A feedback loop grew, turning its own power against itself. The orbiting behemoth trembled in the sky for everyone on Earth to see. Some described the phenomenon from the ground as a halo of swirling purple and red, pulsing like a wounded star. Then, in a flash, a violent chain reaction erupted. A segment of the alien craft tore away in a brilliant explosion, spewing arcs of molten metal. Even from far below on Earth, watchers saw the exact moment it happened. The once menacing silhouette splitting wide under the pressure of uncontrolled energies. Chunks of debris, still glowing hot, scattered into orbit. Then came a wave of atmospheric disturbance as smaller fragments burned upon re-entry. Cheers erupted in bunkers, shelters, and refugee camps around the globe. It was the first tangible sign that Earth had struck back, that the alien invaders were not invincible. But the crisis was not over. Those alien ground forces remained, and the superweapon, though crippled, still hovered in fragments above Earth. Guardian Prime realized it needed to capitalize on the moment of weakness. With the alien mothercraft compromised, their communications were likely scrambled. Orders to ground units might be lost, leading to confusion among invaders. The battered remnants of Earth's militaries seized the opportunity. For months, the war had mostly been a one-sided onslaught. Now, with a renewed spirit, Earth's soldiers launched coordinated strikes on alien encampments. Disorganized, possibly cut off from command, the extraterrestrial troops found themselves surrounded. They no longer had orbital support, and their own advanced gear began to fail, as their suits struggled to maintain stable links to a command structure no longer functioning properly. Guerrilla bands of civilians joined national armies in carefully orchestrated attacks. Step by step, city by city, the aggressors were pushed back. In a pocket near the Siberian wilderness, an alien forward base continued to broadcast an automated distress signal to the crippled craft in orbit. The base's inhabitants, uncertain of orders, tried to regroup and muster a counteroffensive. Instead, Guardian Prime hammered them with a combination of repurposed artillery and cunning sabotage. Similar scenarios played out on other continents. Perhaps the most dramatic confrontation took place in the Australian outback, where locals teamed with special ops to trick an alien column into an ambush. The result was a resounding victory that echoed across the planet in triumphant radio transmissions. Yet, victory came with a high price. Millions had already perished. Infrastructure lay in ruins, and entire cities lay dark. Some wondered if Earth's fragile triumph was too late to salvage modern civilization. But the alien threat was decisively diminished. Within 2 weeks, the last pockets of alien resistance signaled surrender. Unaccustomed to fighting without their advanced orbital command, they recognized the futility of continuing. Under tight guard, the battered alien survivors were led into secured areas. Earth's leaders were stunned to see that these once mighty invaders now looked frail, exhausted, and fearful. Still, the question of the alien wreckage in orbit remained. Scattered fragments threatened to fall unpredictably. A large portion of the superweapon spun dangerously close to atmospheric entry. Over the next few days, Guardian Prime engaged in coordinated attempts to mitigate the debris. Efforts included using ballistic missile interceptors and retrofitted orbital vehicles. Specialists worried that a massive piece of the craft, possibly containing the main reactor, might crash. The potential for radioactive or exotic contamination was enormous. Project Harmonize, ironically, remained in a stable orbit, though partially damaged by the feedback wave. Mirabel Tran, along with the flight crew, had made a daring re-entry, jettisoning to Earth in the leftover command module, parachuting onto the Pacific. Pulling her from the sea, Guardian Prime's rescue teams hailed her as the hero who had delivered Earth from destruction. Her knowledge was now crucial to shutting down the alien wreckage safely. With only a handful of geostationary satellites functioning, Guardian Prime had to rely on short-lived transmissions from the floating remains of global communications. Mirabel and a select few reconfigured Project Harmonize's systems remotely, adjusting it to emit a signal that could, in theory, shift the largest fragment of the alien craft into a slightly decaying orbit, ensuring it would disintegrate upon re-entry over an unpopulated swath of ocean. Many said it was a gamble, but the entire war had been one gamble after another. Mirabel's reprogramming went smoothly, and results appeared within hours. The hulking remains of the superweapon started shifting. Guardian Prime orchestrated mass evacuations from potential re-entry paths. In the final stage, Earth-based radar stations observed the enormous hulk tearing through Earth's upper atmosphere in a spectacle of fire and sparks. Fiery fragments rained down into the vast Pacific. When the final behemoth chunk crashed in open water, it created a massive plume that could be seen from hundreds of kilometers away. But the threat of lethal orbital debris was, at last, ended. For weeks afterward, the planet lived in stunned relief. Small squads of alien survivors occasionally cropped up in the wild, either lost or unwilling to surrender. Over time, Guardian Prime hunted them down or negotiated their capture. Some extraterrestrials, separated from their command, simply laid down their arms and waited passively. Humanity, having suffered so greatly, debated fiercely about how to treat its vanquished foes. For the moment, capturing them alive offered the potential of gleaning knowledge, the methods behind their technology. Triage dictated that Earth's next struggle was simply to survive the aftermath of global devastation. In the months that followed, Guardian Prime dissolved back into an international assembly, though some structures of global unity remained. Rebuilding efforts were slow. An entire generation felt the weight of reconstructing shattered cities, reviving farmland, restoring water supplies, re-establishing dependable electricity. Unsurprisingly, innovations emerged from the forced reliance on older technology. Many had come to appreciate the resilience of low-tech solutions combined with cunning engineering. Humanity's priority was no longer boundless expansion, but rather forging a stable, recoverable world. Among the battered survivors, Mirabel Tran became a revered figure. One day, while she was on a tour of the southwestern desert to visit a makeshift field lab, a group of students from a local science academy approached her. They asked in hushed tones, "How did you know Project Harmonize would work?" She paused, looking at the distant horizon, the sky tinted by the fiery remnants of the setting sun. "We didn't know," she confessed softly. "But sometimes the key to survival is to realize that impossibilities are only illusions. If an enemy believes they are invincible, that is where they are weakest. We found the gap in their armor." After some reflection, she explained more. The alien weapons design was so advanced, it verged on the unstoppable. Except, the aliens never dreamed that anyone would tamper directly with the fundamental energies they relied upon. That assumption gave humanity its only chance. "The brilliance," he said, "comes not from complex mathematics alone, but from seeing that an imbalance in nature can be turned to our advantage." They used the planet's ionosphere to magnify their weapon. We turned that synergy into their downfall. Even as the immediate threat receded, one unsettling question lingered. Were there more ships out there? Could an even larger alien armada arrive in years to come? Humanity had no real way to know. But the world possessed something new, the unity forged during the darkest hours of conflict. Old nationalistic barriers had been weakened by the raw necessity of cooperation. The battered nations had glimpsed the potential for a new global order, one that might stand against future threats from beyond Earth. In secret corners of the planet, research continued. Scientists dissected captured alien technology, dissected samples of their suits, their destroyed weaponry, anything that might yield an advantage if the invaders returned. Another group pored over the partial downloads of alien data that had been gleaned during the final days of the conflict. A few advanced prototypes of new defensive platforms were teased to be in the works, using the recovered knowledge of electromagnetic wave manipulation. Perhaps Earth might not be caught off guard next time. For now, though, the battered planet concentrated on healing. Charred cities slowly flickered to life, with power from rebuilt grids. Water filtration systems restarted, and families cautiously returned to once abandoned homes. Pilgrimages to memorial sites became commonplace. On the day set aside to remember those who had fallen, gatherings would hush in the presence of the enormous crater left on Earth's surface, reminders of the first destructive blasts from the alien superweapon. Most of those attending wore the emblem of Guardian Prime to commemorate the sacrifice that saved billions. As a gesture of solidarity, they also wore a small circular patch embroidered with the swirl of frequencies that had turned the tide. People acknowledged that the final blow might not have been delivered simply by brute force, but by the elegance of an idea that had emerged from a frantic scramble of old-school engineering. In a world that had grown complacent with digital wonders and microelectronics, it was a sobering lesson to discover the formidable power of carefully manipulated waves drawn from the planet's own electromagnetic tapestry. A year passed, and Earth was still standing. Much remained uncertain, but one fact was irrefutable. The aliens had not succeeded in wiping out humanity. Their greatest weapon, an unimaginable cosmic cannon, had self-destructed thanks to the wits and grit of a world that refused to go quietly into extinction. In time, the impetus for new forms of vantage points, both scientific and philosophical, grew. Some scientists argued for forging a deeper understanding of cosmic phenomena, hoping to anticipate the arrival of any other advanced species. Cultural leaders advocated for universal cooperation on Earth so that the next time contact occurred, it might not be so violent. Of course, nobody could guarantee if that next contact would bring peace or threaten cataclysm new. Among the reformed structures, Guardian Prime established a small but determined new space initiative. They developed technology that combined analog robustness with the gleaned alien knowledge. It would take years, maybe decades, but the plan was to expand humanity's presence in space so it could meet any future threats on less one-sided footing. Tiny new outposts were proposed for the Moon and Mars, bolstered by the impetus of survival rather than mere exploration. In that spirit of cautious optimism, laced with the trauma of near extinction, Earth's populace went about the hard work of continuing life. Children returned to refurbished schools. Farmers studied yields under an altered climate. Grandparents told grandchildren about the horrible days when the sky turned purple. And hidden in research labs, a new generation of scientists built upon Mirabel Tran's crucial lesson. Any unstoppable force can be unbalanced if one finds the right vulnerability. As the planet healed, the site in the Pacific where the alien wreckage had plunged became an unlikely new frontier for ocean explorations. Salvage teams hoped to drag up bits of the superweapon from the seabed. Rumors circulated that entire subsections of the craft might still lie intact under the waves, just waiting to be found. Even though the war had left scars, an undercurrent of curiosity compelled humanity to learn from the defeated enemy's secrets. Now and then, people wondered if the victory was truly complete. Were the aliens simply regrouping somewhere? Could they be plotting revenge? The truth was unknowable. Yet, from the vantage point of a species that had barely survived, The future seemed more open than it had in centuries. Whatever lay ahead, Earth would face it, armed with an experience that transcended prior illusions of security. In the aftermath, historians gleaned an essential lesson. An adversary with a colossal weapon, unstoppable by conventional means, still might fall through cunning and perseverance. If the aliens had expected Earth to rally behind a barrage of nuclear missiles, they would have been prepared. They never counted on a species resourceful enough to fuse radio-era technology with advanced electromagnetic theory and to exploit the synergy of the very environment the aliens sought to dominate. That cunning had proven unstoppable, and so the world turned, day by day, into a place where the memories of the invasion carved into the collective psyche a new purpose. People strove to do better, both for each other and for the planet they nearly lost. The scars of the purple wave, the ravaged cities, and the monstrous shadow in orbit would forever remain part of history. Yet so too would the triumphant memory of the moment that a single device, launched on a hodgepodge rocket, had silenced one of the greatest threats humanity ever faced. In that new era, hope persisted. Each sunrise was a testament to the resilience that had emerged in the darkest hour. People once again looked to the stars, but with a tempered mixture of wonder and caution. They had faced something horrific from out there and lived to see another day. And through it all, they had discovered that collaboration, ingenuity, and sacrifice could be more powerful than any superweapon. They had faced down annihilation with a skillful gamble, a brilliant stroke that would become legend. And for once, in all of recorded history, humanity truly stood united. An outcome even an advanced alien invader could never have foreseen.